everyone, to this month's episode of ZOLEO Campfire Chats. We're so glad that you're here. Whether you're brand new to the outdoors or you've spent years trekking through the backwoods, this is a space to share ideas, learn from experienced adventurers, and connect with like-minded community. I'm Lauren from ZOLEO, and I'll be your host for today. Before we jump into the conversation, I want to quickly cover a few housekeeping notes to ensure that everyone has a great experience. First, your comfort matters. Think of this as a cozy campfire chat, a place to relax, be yourself, and enjoy some great conversation. Number two, if you'd like to jump in with a question or a comment, just pop it into the Q&A box in the top ribbon. We'll do our best to bring as many of your thoughts into the discussion as we can. During the session, guest cameras and mics will stay off so that everyone can sit back and enjoy the conversation without distraction. We've also got a few awesome folks from the ZOLEO team here today. First up is Lou, our product expert, and he'll be answering any of your ZOLEO or product-related questions directly in the Q&A box. I'd also like to welcome Sammy, our moderator, who will be keeping an eye on the Q&A and leading our audience question segment later on. And finally, note number 3, just a friendly reminder. Let's keep things kind and respectful. We want this to be a positive space where everyone feels welcome to learn and connect. Today's guest brings a very different perspective to the outdoors, one shaped not just by adventure, but by real-world emergency response. Cam Challenger has spent decades operating in high-risk, high-stress environments, from search and rescue teams in British Columbia to his current role as a tactical flight officer and advanced life support paramedic. He's led missions in avalanche terrain, swift water rescues, and helicopter operations, often stepping into situations where things have already gone very wrong. Today, he's here to talk about the psychology of survival and what it really takes to stay calm, think clearly, and make good decisions when everything around you starts to fall apart. Please join me in welcoming Cam.
Hey, Lauren, how are you?
Hey, Cam, I'm good. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you. Um,
Awesome.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for the invite when it came out and meeting with me, and welcome everyone who's there online watching as well. This is a super cool topic to me. And when the opportunity arose, I was like, the idea of like campfire chats, a little bit more relaxed discussion, and on a topic that I've found super useful. I've spent the better part of my professional career trying to perfect and and make better. So I think this is going to be really awesome. So thank you so much, and thank you everyone for joining.
Awesome. All right, guys, we have a lot of very exciting topics to get into today. So without further ado, let's head into our first one. So, Cam,
Yeah.
you've obviously spent a lot of time in situations where people are at their absolute worst, whether they're lost, injured, or they're just overwhelmed. From
Mhm.
your experience, what actually happens to someone psychologically in those first moments when they realize that, like, oh no, I'm in trouble?
Yeah, I think the key word is first moments. Those first moments, from what I've seen for almost 3 decades of this now, of doing rescue, is panic and overwhelmed. When that first couple seconds hit of I'm not where I'm supposed to be, I don't recognize this anymore. Something bad has really happened. The body wants to be safe. We all want to be safe and have a comfort area. And when we don't fit into that perception of safety and comfort, and that looks different for everyone too, right? So when we hit that moment, it is overwhelmed panic in those first moments. And then that really kind of the next moments after that kind of set the tone for how we respond, how we rescue, how we get out of this, how we self-rescue and things like that. A lot of people can be hard on themselves. I've heard that in debriefs, like how did I get into this situation, and sort of a moment of this is not good. What's going to happen next? And the whole kind of great day of hiking is now turmoil and chaos, and what are we doing? And I offered that it also depends on the person too, right? So their experience, background, training. Some people might move through those phases a little bit different than other folks, but in generally speaking, in doing rescue and search and rescue, that's kind of what I've seen in those first few moments when they realize that they're actually in trouble now.
For sure. And you mentioned there, which I think kind of leads us perfectly into my next point of the how did I get into this situation? So we tend to imagine survival scenarios as this one big moment gone wrong, when in
Yeah,
reality, it's often a series of tiny little things that have snowballed.
sure.
So, can you walk us through how that typically unfolds and what happens in the body when stress kicks in?
Yeah, so those moments, right? It's like some educators will offer like a Swiss cheese type of thing when all the things line up and you can kind of put the hole right through all the Swiss cheese holes kind of thing. Good example for sure. Um, and all those little things, it can start from like I've got a couple missions that we had kind of in my head, and like one was a person that had overestimated a little bit their physical capabilities and had selected terrain and a height that maybe didn't match their current abilities at that moment. And there was also some peer pressure from some friend groups and whatnot to go out there and totally can respect that. I've been in that situation too. And you want to go out there and you want to be part of it, but you can see the breadcrumbs of those decisions starting to go on and not bad decisions. We're all human, right? And so it was maybe selecting a route that wasn't quite matching to us. And then, you can have other things that come along like that. The flat tire, or you're going to go pick up the friends to go hiking or camping, and now we're late because of traffic, or someone's forgotten something and we're turning around, and now we're starting to get behind in our timeline a little bit. And now the coffee gets spilled, so we're trying to clean that up quickly. And then we start getting on the trail and maybe we in the rush, I've definitely been guilty of this one, forget to check the weather, and didn't realize it's sunny right now, but there's going to be some weather coming in the afternoon. Those are good learning situations, for sure. And then you get towards the evening, or later afternoon, evening components, and now we're tired, maybe didn't pack enough food. We're in a kind of a caloric deficit, maybe a little dehydration because we didn't pack a bigger water bottle because this was supposed to be a 1 hour hike that now is a 6 hour hike. The weather's come in, a little bit of rain. Now it's slippery on the trail and we're tired, slippery, a little bit of pain, we're sore, and we're moving a little bit quick because we want to get back to the car and get out of the rain and all this. And then you see a slip or a trip happen, and now we've broken an ankle, someone's gone off the edge. Maybe the party's separated a little bit, the faster folks, vice versa, and now we're missing someone, and now we're into that survival lost person sort of situation there. So when that happens, kind of typically what's going on in the body there is it's trying to figure out, am I in danger, am I not? And how bad is this kind of thing? And that's where the body starts doing its thing. So yeah.
Awesome. Okay. And then, so in those moments where your body's trying to figure out what you're doing, we commonly hear fight, flight, freeze as a
Yeah.
response. So, what is that response doing to us in that moment?
Yeah, it's trying to keep us safe. If we're in a moment now where we're looking at the scenario, we're seeing what's going on, and we can't map that. Like we've never been here before. We don't understand what's going on like at this moment. Um, the body's going to protect us and it's going to try and keep us safe. And so we're going to start accessing different areas of our brain, going from good thought process, nice clear function as we're talking here today, prefrontal cortex idea, and it starts to rotate back into like lower brainstem type area. And that's like, is this a saber-tooth tiger? Is this, a really big spider that I hate spiders, or whatever that is? And it's trying to match the feeling and danger that we're seeing and experiencing to something in our memory bank to formulate a plan to get out of it. And if we've got nothing in the memory bank per se, then the body is still going to do mechanisms pathophysiologically, emotionally, and whatnot to get us out of that situation, or at least attempt to keep us safe. So we get the fight, flight, freeze. You can throw in that sometimes talked about fawning as well in there. And those moments, it's trying to select an appropriate response to the stressor that we don't particularly understand at that moment. So like somatic nervous system is like muscle control, walking, picking up the coffee cup. We have control over that. We get into like the autonomic nervous system, which is involuntary functions. We have two lower ones there, and I'm not going to go deep into this, but sympathetic and parasympathetic. Sympathetic is the fight, flight, and then we get the parasympathetic, which is the freeze, fawn idea. So the fighting one, anger, aggression, sometimes that's a good response depending on the scenario. Flight, running, get me out of here right now. I've definitely seen that. I had a mission where we had a subject after dark was just going out for a quick bomb up the trail. She wasn't supposed to be more an hour. Got turned around on the trailhead, took a wrong trail, took like two or three wrong trails. That was way where they weren't supposed to be. Luckily, we had cell phone contact with the subject. But it was very difficult to get this person to stay still. And so we were moving towards them, and they kept moving the mark. Essentially, they were the mark, and they kept moving. So we're triangulating in on them, and now all of a sudden we're getting a ping over here, or they're describing something that's over there. And so we were chasing them almost in a way to try and find them. And it took a lot of coaching to get them to stay still. And by the time we actually reached them, it's pitch black. It was a no moon night. And when the subject heard our voice, started running towards us, and we couldn't see anything without flashlights. And we were super concerned. They were either going to run off a cliff because we were in a cliffed area, or they were going to catch some of the salal and the foliage and break an ankle, tumble, and now we have head injury or whatnot like that. So they're definitely in the flight response at that moment. And then the freeze, just too overwhelming. And the body just says, we can't deal with this right now. And as a protective mechanism, just stops thinking about it and then holds and freezes from there. So
Sure. Well, knowing myself the way that I do, I fear that I would be the flight. So I apologize in
yeah.
advance if you ever
No,
have to track the words.
no, and these are all human responses, right? So these are all normal responses to abnormal situations, really, right? And then it's just recognizing that stuff, and hopefully now this is why this is so great. It's like such a good opportunities to kind of educate and discuss and talk, and then hopefully folks can take away and look at themselves and their hiking buddies and camping partners and see where it goes.
Exactly, yeah. The Cam Challenger method. Um,
Not quite, not quite.
so okay, so that brings us into our next point. If stress is inevitable, the real question kind of then becomes how do we manage it?
Yeah.
So, how do you start building awareness of your own stress response before you need it, before you're in a critical situation?
Yeah, good question. So, like, what's stress? Like, what is stress? It's like, like, right? Like,
Yeah.
you ask that question, like, just everyone take a minute. I'll give you like 10 seconds here. Like, everyone's probably used the phrase, me included. I'm stressed out. This is a lot today. I'm stressed out. But like, okay, what's stress?
Yeah.
It's like, so we got to kind of, I think we put it in a box a little bit. So I've come to understand that stress is uh, either a lack of resources. Either we have a real or perceived threat, and we don't have enough resources to meet that, whatever it is. I don't have time. Time's a resource. And you got deadlines today. I don't have enough time to meet these deadlines today. So my stress goes up. So I don't have enough resource in time. Maybe it's food, maybe it's water, maybe it's light, maybe it's medical equipment. So I think once you can kind of put stress in a box and you can kind of hold it and give it a term or something like that, that's the great starting point. So when you feel stress come on, you go, okay, if it's a lack of resources to meet the real or perceived threat, okay, lack of resources, I need resources. What do I got? And then you can start to work through that process if you don't have a plan all ready to go or something you pre-thought of for sure. And then,
Okay.
yeah, I think that's the starting point.
Okay. Cool. So, in situations like that, I've heard the term before, redlining.
Mm.
So, can you explain for our audience kind of what that means and highlight maybe some signs that people should watch for in themselves?
Yeah, good one. Red line, like maxing out, like your stress is totally, you are peak capacity. We've gone over the curve of functional awareness, stress piece or high performance stress. We've gone off the curve to now where we're maybe not functioning as well as we should be or at all, making irrational decisions and things like that. Um, I think know thyself is it took me a long time to figure this one out. I knew I was stressed in certain situations, whether that's in training or on real world missions. And I've been so fortunate to have mentors and guides and great educators. And the teams that I have been on have been exceptional people all the way around and haven't let me floundered or and have picked me up and whatnot. And so in those moments of high stress, high trying to, and sifting through that, I would get out of them and I'd be like, I don't feel good. What is going on? And then I dove into it a little bit. And for me personally, I know when I'm redlining or getting into my max stress load is when my respiratory rate is high. I'm breathing really fast. When my mouth is dry, totally dry, and I'm like trying to swallow. I need a drink of water and my calf muscles are killing me, just absolutely killing me. And so this is that parasympathetic sympathetic response going on. And so I have come to the point, and I will offer this to everyone else, is really take a look at yourselves the next time you're feeling stressed, quote unquote, And you start at your head. Am I dizzy? How's my vision? How's my hearing? Am I breathing fast? Is my heart rate quick? Am I nauseated? Is my stomach? Do I feel like I have to go to the bathroom more often than not? You probably heard of the term like someone got so scared they pooped themselves. That is the digestive system shutting down, saying you are in such a dangerous scenario. You don't need to eat right now. Shut the digestive system down, take blood away from that, push it to the heart, lungs, and brain so that you can deal with whatever we're dealing with. Doesn't necessarily know that being lost is not a saber-toothed tiger. So there are some things in there that you can look for in and of yourself. The breathing, increased breathing rate, the increased heart rate. We might have to run or fight something. So we're going to increase our blood pressure. We're going to increase our heart rate so that we can have oxygen, glucose, et cetera, to our muscle systems to do what we need to do. As well as if we take a hit, if saber-tooth tiger bites us in the arm, we might be bleeding now. And so increased heart rate actually helps to offset for a certain period of time the bleeding aspect of things. So if you can have the moment the next time you feel stressed to slow down and just do a systems check. Just start it yourself and you'll be like, how really conscious thought of myself. You'll be able to pick up signs and symptoms of this is what I feel like. And then further, you take that further into situations. So before you tip over that edge of extreme stress, you'll go, okay, I'm starting to redline now. I need to institute some mechanisms to bring me back so that I can keep that logical thought process up front and then move forward from there.
Sure. And so the, saber tooth tiger versus being lost, obviously both are dangers of their own levels, but
100%.
in those kind of high stress situations, do you have any tools that folks can use to help them distinguish between kind of real danger and perceived danger or kind of those
Yeah.
those smaller scale emergencies?
Yeah. Good one. Um, excuse me. It's like super good question. Like, how do I know what's dangerous and what's not dangerous? It's totally different for everyone, and it's a sliding scale. So when I have my mentees or my recruits, or even folks that I'm training, educating, there's three things that I usually give them. I say you got to have the right equipment, the right skills, or the right training, and the right experience. So three things: equipment, experience, and training. And it's a sliding scale for each of those ones. And it really depends on the situation that you're in. So walk around the duck pond with no elevation gain that's 20 minutes from the parking lot sort of thing. Low gear, plus minus, whether it's runners, experience level, can you walk? Do you have good balance sort of thing? Kind of there. Now you're going on the multi-day trek into like 10,000 foot elevation gain with multi-gully, no route, etc. So then the training and the experience need to slide up and push up into those areas. So with that being said, a burning building for a firefighter is not as dangerous as it is for the civilian walking down the street. So the danger is different comparatively speaking, as to persons there. I think I go back to like we were just talking about is really looking at yourself and going signs and symptoms and going, am I starting to feel those I call them red line symptomologies in myself? And then that's a good indicator of, is this getting into a dangerous situation for me when I start experiencing those things? Because I either don't have a plan, I'm not, and I use this day to day. There's many times where I'll tap out and I'll tell my team, I'm like, hey, I'm not the best person to do this task or this mission because I'm starting to feel it. I've done my checklist and I don't have the right training to go into this scenario and do these things. If that helps.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely kind of knowing yourself and knowing your limits plays a huge part.
Totally.
Awesome. Okay. So let's talk about decision making
Sure.
because in survival situations, even the smallest choices you make can have really big consequences, right? Um, so when everything feels chaotic, how do
Mhm.
you actually make good decisions under extreme stress?
Yeah, it took me a while to figure that one out. So yeah, three ideas. Slow down, like slow down. Um, you have time. I can think of maybe on one hand, like five times that I've been in a situation where I had no time to think. It had to be an immediate reaction. Now, I'm not in law enforcement and things like those times. My world's a little bit different than that per se. So slow down and keep the train in the train station because if the freight train starts to run away with our stress, it's hard to, we can get it back, but it's a lot harder to get it back once that train's left the station. So slow down. If you think you're lost or now all of a sudden you're in a survival situation, just sit down. Sit down, give yourself 5 minutes, take a breather, and just take it all in. Then from there, trust your training. If you have some training, and training can be anything. Like I carry sometimes if I've got a new piece of gear that I played with for a little bit and it's the first time I'm taking it out or second, even third time, I'll bring the manual with me and I'll throw the manual in my backpack. And that's training too. Opening up the book and reading it, that is training. You don't have to go to a formal course and do all those things like that. Training is self-training and self-taught too. So trust the things that you're reading. And sometimes that can be hard if the stress is up because we're not taking all the words into the information as well as we can. We're like, well, that doesn't make sense right now. And da, da, da. And how many times have I looked at something like this tool should work on this and it doesn't? My wife's like, no, it does. You're just not reading it right. And and so trust your training and then stick to the plan. That's another hard one, especially when the stress, we're gonna use that, I'm gonna definitely overuse that word today, is highest. And but you've got a plan and you said to to your check-in folks, hey, if I don't check in at this time, call search and rescue or call 911. Or if we get to this point, we'll use our satellite communicator, we'll hit the check-in button at this point. And if we don't stick to those little things, oh, let's go list a little bit further and then we'll check in. Or, oh, we're not totally in a bad spot yet. We said we'd push the emergency button if weren't back by dark, and we don't do those things. Those are, as you offered earlier, those breadcrumb moments that start adding to it. So slow down, trust your training or self-training, and stick to the plan that you came to. And then I think those things will help anchor you down into a place that's better for thought process.
Awesome. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about some practical tools for
Sure,
decision
yeah.
making in those high stress moments. So you teach a framework called, and this is a tongue twister for me. I don't know why. BTSF.
Yeah.
Can you break that down for us?
Yeah, sure. So this is from Mike Loria. So he was a pararescue jumper from the United States Air Force, so combat search and rescue, and now he's an ER doctor, and he's an exceptionally smart person, and I'm firm believer in his material. And when I was self-exploration and looking through how to manage my own stress and work through these really high, as I progressed through my career, high risk environments where the outcomes were like we can't fail today because that's people won't make it out of this one. Looking for tools and skills, I came across Mike Loria's teaching, and I will put my mentees onto him, or even in the classroom, if I notice someone who's having some difficulties in simulation scenarios, I will put them onto his works, and so this is really his works that I've been able to utilize, and I would offer everyone here check Mike Loria's work out, and he offers breathe, talk, see, and focus. So the breathing piece is many of us have probably heard box breathing or tactical breathing, and it's rhythmic breathing. So uh, in for two, in for four, hold for four, out for four, hold for four. 4 seconds can be a long time for people. You could do it for 2 seconds, but that rhythmic breathing anchors us down and brings us into a point, and it can start to slow us down a little bit more. It offers heart rate control. It can actually, if you utilize that in an appropriate fashion, it can increase pressure, interthoracic pressure through the body. It trips some pressure sensors in there to say, hey, our blood pressure is great. We're not bleeding out right now. Your heart rate doesn't have to be, it's all interplaying in there. We won't do the pathophysiology lesson on how that all works, but it can actually lower the heart rate down, lower your breathing rate down, and help your cognitive thought process out. You need to do a little bit more research, folks, if you're going to try and do that, because if you do that for too long, some folks can become lightheaded and have a sinkhole or a fainting thing if you do that too long. But it is definitely a tool that works well. It's worked well for me. The talk piece is instructional. So we're lost. You got 3 flares that you got to launch, and you want to save them for the right moment when that helicopter comes over, that plane comes over, and you don't want to misuse one of them. Or it could be any piece of gear, or it could be you're going to cross a super slippery log over that river that's going, because that is the option to safety that you've determined, quote unquote, for today. So that talk is instructional and motivational. So you're that flare, okay, load the flare, close the gun, aim high, pull trigger. So you're walking the steps through before you actually do the action, so that when you go to do the action a couple seconds later, essentially you practiced. You've trained almost because you've walked through it. You got the instruction book out like I offered. Read it first, read it a second time, and then when you go to do the thing, step by step, do the thing to increases your options of success. And then even motivational, like I can do this, keep going. I've been here before. That starts to get us out of a little bit of negative despair into more positive. And we all know that when we're in a positive mindset, we start vibing better, we got more flow, and then we start to perform better from there. The C is that, oh, go ahead. Sorry, Lauren, do you have
No,
something?
no, no, please continue.
Yeah. The C piece goes with that, the talking piece, and that's I got a little bit out of order there with the actual mental rehearsal of what we're gonna do. And you want to have it really vivid. Like I am, like you really see yourself loading that flare gun in the right order, putting it out to the sky and go. And the last one is a focus word. And I have found that super word. And I am so grateful that I found Mike Loria's stuff in his teachings, because that focus word has pulled me out more than once, where I've been like, okay, we're about to jump out of the helicopter into a really bad situation right now. And I'm like, okay, here we go. And trying to keep it together. And I've got lots of things that I'm task managing and task switching through. And so I'll fire up my focus word, and it's a cognitive spotlight. It gets your head in the game. It's like, let's do this. And then you execute and you go for it. And I had a student one time, she came across a car accident, and she phoned me right after it, and she's like, I did the focus word thing. I did it, and it was crazy because I got out of the car and I looked and there was no one around, and I didn't want to, and I said, what would Cam do? And I did my focus word, and she's like, it just worked.
WWCD. What would Cam do? Nice.
So it was pretty cool. I was like, yeah, right on. That's a good moment. And your focus word can be anything. Like it can be anything. I had another student one time who said to me, so Cam wasn't really buying it, right? And she was kind of like, eh. And it is one of the funniest things. She was, so what do you mean? Like I could use like pineapple? And I'm like, you know what your focus word is now, don't you? It's pineapple for the end now. So
That's too funny.
yeah,
Nice.
it works. It got to work for you. But yeah, so. Yeah, I would say folks check out Mike Gloria's stuff, Pararescue Jumper, ER Doctor, BTSF. He's got a couple good talks on it, and it's really helped me and helped my team members. So yeah,
Awesome. Okay. So let's shift gear a little bit
yeah.
into a topic that historically has been front of mind for a lot of our viewers. So you've said that in high stress situations, we don't rise to the occasion, we fall to our level of training. In those
Hmm.
moments, how does familiarity with your gear impact your mental state in a survival scenario?
Yeah, hugely, hugely. If we're not familiar with our gear, it just adds. It just adds more cognitive load to what we're trying to accomplish and what we're trying to do. Um, Train how you fight. That's a word that gets thrown around sometimes. I'm a firm believer that use your gear, use your equipment. It shouldn't be the first time that you're going out into the bush. If you risk stratify a little bit, and it's a new backpack and you're taking it on a moderate level sort of thing for you, then sure, I can go along with that. But if this is a more strenuous type event. This is the first time you're taking out those hiking boots that aren't broken in. You haven't walked around the house or the yard or the neighborhood for a while, and this is the first time going out. That can lead to some issues pretty quick. I've been involved in some teams that will issue equipment and then say the only time you're allowed to use it is when you are there. I don't necessarily buy that idea. I think if you're going out for a hike on the weekend, this is the gear you're going to use to practice, and you want to throw that backpack on or that piece of kit, and it's not like totally deckled up with team logo and stuff like that, then absolutely you gotta train, you gotta use it so then when that moment happens. I had a time when we were doing a rescue. It was a traumatic cardiac arrest. So this person had sustained injuries and had led to their heart stopping, and we were trying to revive them, get them back. And it was again another no light, low light situation, no moon. We were a significant portion away from any type of vehicles, and I was the team leader as well as the highest medical responder on the scene. And we had quite a few resources and assets from different agencies that had converged onto the scene. And people were looking to me for direction, rightfully so. And so we're moving through this, and folks redlining, different variations of that had flashlights out because it's dark, but they kept shining flashlights in my eyes. And so I was losing my night vision. As I get a, you get the headlights of a car or you get a flash. So, kid shines a flashlight in your eyes. My kids do it all the time at night. And now you get the spots and the stars. And now I'm trying to perform pretty critical interventions and skills and utilize gear with my vision totally hindered from there. Um, Through training, practice, experience with the gear. As I say, train how you fight, take your gear out, play with it, use it, whatever gear you have at home. So it's not the first time you're utilizing it. Um, I I knew by touch what that button does at that time. When I reach into my bag, it's packed the exact same way. So when I go for this piece of gear to go and do this, I had practiced landmarking and doing things in low light and low light, no light situations before. Knew what I'm feeling, knew where I'm going, and so that leads to those outcomes where you can still perform when things aren't going as well. And I'd offer, if we're out hiking, recreating, hunting, those types of things in the outdoors, if we break an arm, now gear familiarity becomes very vital because now we have one arm, and that might not be our strong arm. It might be our opposite arm that we write with and drink coffee with. And now we're trying to do it with an object arm that's not as ambidextrous as we thought. So 100% gear familiarity will lead to increased survival.
Awesome. So, with that in mind, can you walk us through a few examples or a few pieces of gear that you rely on heavily and kind of what the benefits of those pieces are?
Yeah, for sure. Got a couple just off to the side here. Bear with me as I pull them down and pull them up. The first one that I will always have a length of width is paracord. Can you see that okay? Kind of in there. So paracord is awesome if you don't have some already. If you get the certified kind, you look out there, make sure it's the right kind. It's not a knockoff or anything like that. Paracord or 550 cord, because it's 550 pounds it'll hold per strand. I have used this to tie snowshoe straps back together, to tie my skis together. Went on mission when my strap on my skis was too cold and it broke. Strap extra gear or subject gear to my own backpack to the outside of it to lash it onto there. Um, I've used this shelter building more times than I can count, of different shelters, of tarps, of logs, of all sorts of stuff along those lines. Drying racks, anything that you can think of, paracord is good for. If you bust it open on the inside, it's got 7 strands of this small little, maybe that's a little better, I don't know. 7 strands of the really tiny filament there, the kern pieces of it there that can be broken down. They're each spawning even further. Um, I was eating and I got a piece of food stuck in my teeth and it was driving me nuts, like just bonkers. And I split open a couple inches of paracord, pull out one of the strands, split it, was able to get that thing out and like talk about like small wins and small victories, like get in the right headspace. I was like, that made my day. Like I can continue to do whatever now. Like that was the best thing ever. So paracord, never leave home without it. It's always in my bag. Family vacations, airports, all over. That always comes with me. Um, Lighter, just a Bic, regular lighter, doesn't have to be anything fancy. There are some cool ones. I got a plasma one too, and some other cool ones. But I always carry a couple of these with me. Always, it never let me down. These fire. If we're in a survival situation, you can do the bow and string and all the different types like that. Those are super good skills to know. I recommend practicing those. But if you have the option of this versus those, I would go with this. That's what I've always done. It's made life so much easier for me, as well as you're going to be burning calories doing that stuff too. So if you have another option, that works too. If you have rescuers going overhead, either plane, helicopter, or even on the ground, drones now too, that have night vision or forward-looking infrared or an infrared signature of some kind on, or sensor, sorry, of some kind on there. You hit this, that shows up like a spotlight from kilometers away on some of those ISR platforms. So I always have a lighter. And then when I cut my paracord up too, I always will melt the end of the paracord because it does have the centers there so they can come kind of stretched out if you're not doing it. I guess a little trick of the trade, I always tie a knot in the paracord before I cut one of the ends so it can't retract too far or whatnot in there. Um, Shemag, one of the scarves, the big ones, kind of like that. I have carried this with me just about everywhere. I use it for cut blocks. So when we're landing helicopters, sometimes in cut blocks, and there's like all the bark and cedar is flying everywhere, and the helicopter will come in just before they come in. And they can tilt their blades and they do a dust off, and they'll try and blow as much stuff out of the way. And if we're around that, you're getting little pieces of it almost feels like fiberglass down your neck and stuff. So wrapping that up, sun protection over the head, hat on, keeping that off your back. I've loaded water bottles in them when we need extra water bottles, laid it out, piled water bottles in, picked it up, tied a knot, threw it over my shoulder, ran with it. Splinting arms, crepe and cravat type things. Uh, Used it for bugs. One of the best ones that I've ever had was we got into a really boggy situation when we were hiking, my wife and I, before we had kids, and the bugs were unreal and up our nose, in our ears. Um, and so wrapped it around, pulled it over, made kind of a tunnel out, and then had the sunglasses on. And believe it or not, they couldn't figure out how to get in the tunnel piece and pulled it so far forward. But you could hear them and feel them crawling onto the weight of them and hear them in the ears. It was an experience and a half, but nevertheless saved our bacon from the bug situation. So I'm a firm believer. Pillow too. Keep that thing with me all over. The other one, I'm just going to stand up here and I'm just going to take this out for a sec. Just move over 1 foot. I'll come back here. 1 second. This is my rig. This is my survival rig that I wear when I go on mission, and it's got a couple extra attachments and couple extra bags. So the big bag down here is like an MRE and my extra water bottle and stuff. So it's plus minus so that I keep this big one on here. But the other thing that I never leave home without is my multi-tool. And I keep it kind of protected into here because I never want to lose this thing. I've used it for so much. From breaking the tri-link carabiner on my chest harness when I did it up too tight one time and I couldn't get it undone. I broke that off, to picking hot pots off the fire when I forgot the handle there, to hot doors. So Auto X or Vehicle X, I'm trying to get through a door or window and I don't have a lot of tools with me. I can pry things with it. I can get through a helicopter door if I need to. It's got the center drive has got one of the biggest blades on the market for cutting. So if I need a knife, it's there. It's also if I'm hurt. So I've learned over the years that if I'm gonna fall, I've got a thing going on in my head that I practice enough where I'll fall to my left side and I'll throw my left side into the dirt or a tree or whatever because I'm right-handed and I want to keep. For me, it works. It may not work for everyone, but for me, I want to keep that side as strong as I can, as uninjured as I can. So this one isn't a normal like flip open style multi-tool. It's a slide and it's a one-handed slide. So it's not even a pinch. So it's smooth on one and it's got the trigger on the other side. So with one hand, you can get it open. And so if you're injured or banged up, that's a really big deal. It's also got a little bit of a wider vise or a wider pair of pliers in there. I found for working on like chainsaws or things like that, it can grab a bolt and manipulate that a little bit better. Or if you bang your sights on your rifle really hard, which we all know we shouldn't be doing that, but in a pinch, it can help fix the rails and stuff like that. Um, the other cool piece with this that I really like for using stoves and other equipment is the bits on it, the screwdriver bits. So when it folds out on the screwdriver piece, in full disclosure, Gerber, I get nothing from Gerber. this is this is many years of trial and tribulation, so I'm trying to offer what I like the most. Um, but how they've engineered it, it goes out and it arcs up and in. So it's called a center drive because it drives from the center of the tool. And so after turning it a while, it's not offset. And I was finding my wrist was getting kind of tired enough times. This has really been comfortable in that regard. I keep it on my right side in here, but I've also attached a little bit of a spring bungee type cord that I just kind of cut off, looped in, a couple double fisherman knots on the end there, but it's to extend my arm. It gives me full extension of my arm so that I can work on things. And then if I let it go, it just kind of hangs there off to the side. I learned that one the hard way on the side of a cliff one time, hence why now this one is like that. And then I'll show you the one that was really it's the simple things in life. It really is. So I pull it out on and off my survival rig because when I'm working on ambulance, I bring it with me too. But the holder that I wear on my belt for that, you can either load it vertical, which a lot of them are, but this one had the side loops. So it's really nice and flush on my hip and on my belt, and it stays right in there and it just seems to stay out of the way. And when I sit down or I'm getting in out of seats, it doesn't bang into stuff. So it's the small things in life that I'm getting on in years that I kind of go for. So those are my four, I guess, big things that I never leave without.
Awesome. Okay, cool. All right, so we are starting to get up there in time. So I think to close off this segment as we start to wrap up, what are a few simple takeaways or words of encouragement you'd want people to carry with them so that they feel more prepared and more in control when they're going off grid?
Yeah, we touched on a few of those. That's such a good question, right? The slow down piece is really give yourself a moment to think. Some of the search and rescue mantra out there is stop, think, observe, plan. So stop is the first piece of that. Think like, where am I? What am I part of? What am I into right now? Then observe and plan. Figure out where we're going to go and then come up with a plan to get you out of there. I think as I get on in years and have been in these situations, and even myself getting into some stuff, um, be positive. And that's such a hard statement to stay. Um, one of the things I've found for myself is if you smile, even when you don't want to smile, you will laugh. Give yourself 10 seconds of just making a corny smile. You will laugh and you'll start to get a couple little dopamine hits, and it can change the tide. Um, think back if you are in that bad situation, that survival situation, that loss situation. I really want folks to think back that you've made so many good decisions. This is a couple bad decisions, and maybe not even your decisions. It might not even might not even been there, but give the confidence to yourself if you're kind of like man, like how did I get into this? Like I've definitely said that to myself, like I should have been smarter, like this is dumb, like why would you do that? But we make so many good decisions every single day, each one of us. From shoulder checking when you got on the highway this morning going into the office, like you literally averted a car accident. I advanced life support paramedic. I see it all the time. Like that simple act that took you 3 seconds was literally life changing today for you and for someone else. So, but you've made so many other good decisions all the way up to that point, and now we're in a bad spot. So really give yourself the time and the space to say, I've made so many good decisions and I'm going to make some more. We're in a bad spot, yes, but it can always get worse. I'm here, I'm alive, I can hear the birds. What a beautiful day. We're going to get out of this. We're going to stick to the plan. I told those folks where I was going to be hiking. They know if I don't talk to them by 6 p.m. to dinner tonight, they're going to call search and rescue. I just need to sit here. Someone's going to find me. They know what trail I'm on, kind of thing. Or you break out your communicator, you pull the pin, you hit the button, someone's coming, right? So give yourself that time and that space, one step at a time. And I think I would end with just be gentle with yourself. We're all humans. We all get into spots sometimes, and sometimes we get into spots we didn't think we were going to get into for any number of reasons. Be gentle with yourself. You make good decisions, and you're going to make some more, and you're going to get out of it.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Cam. This has been a fantastic conversation. I know there's been a lot of amazing takeaways. I hope that everyone watching has found this as beneficial as we did as well. Now let's get into your questions. I'm going to hand things over to Sammy, who's been monitoring the Q&A box, and will take us a few audience questions for Cam.
Hi, everyone. It's Sammy. I'm so excited to jump into your questions, and thank you so much for sending in such thoughtful ones. And of course, thank you to Cam for being here. Let's start hopping into your questions. So the first one, Cam, that we have for you, is in an emergency, which stress response serves us better, flight or freeze?
Ooh, good one. Depends. That's not
Hmm.
the answer we want, right? We want black and white answers, but such a good one. Yeah, flight or freeze. Uh, it depends, right? It depends on the hazard or the event that we're dealing with. So if it is a wildfire situation or something like that, you might want to flight. You might want to get out of there, depending if you have a good avenue, you can get away from the fire. Freeze can also be like a hold or a stay in place type of thing. That might be better with potentially sometimes aggressive animals. We don't want to run from those animals. We want to stay and kind of hold our ground. And maybe that's more of a fight too, in some regard. But a freeze could also be like if you're in an island of safety and an avalanche happens and you are safe where you are right now, the avalanche is happening around you. We don't want to flight and just jump on our skis and book it. Do we understand where the train is going, where the run out is going to be, those things like that? It might be better to freeze and hold right where we are. So it really comes down to, I think, when you're deciding between those things, is implementing those strategies that kind of keep our thought process up here to try and make the best decisions we can at that moment in time, and hopefully we get out of it the best we can.
Yeah, definitely. I totally hear what you're saying. And I probably imagine that freezing might come in handy in search and rescue situations too, because you kind of stay in one
Absolutely,
place.
stay in one place.
Stay in
Absolutely
one
right. Hug
place.
a tree. Hug a tree. We heard that one before, probably the
Uh,
search and rescue. No.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
No, I want trees to hug me as well. That sounds absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, hug a tree. Stay still. Don't move, and we could don't run away from me as I'm coming for you.
Yeah, you heard it here first, folks.
Yeah.
All right. The next question that our audience has left for you, Cam, is how do you develop awareness around a personal tendency to downplay risk?
Interesting. How do you develop strategy around a personal tendency to downplay risk?
Develop
Um,
awareness around a personal
awareness,
tendency. Yeah.
awareness. So, oh, that is a very thoughtful, good
Right.
question.
Our audience has
Um,
great questions.
totally, 100%. Um, interesting. I think like I want to know a little bit more, but I'll give it my best go here. Um, I would want to know why the risk is getting downplayed, like, or where that thought comes from a little bit.
Mhm.
And is it we don't understand the risk or the situation we in, or is it more of a personal trait, or sometimes we can have biases that come into that? Like, I've done it this way 1,000 times. I've always had success in situations like this or similar situations that have involved the risk, and so I'm just going to keep going. And as you build up that confidence, you kind of like get high on the confidence until we hit a moment of like, okay, it didn't work out this time. That went really bad. And then we drop down on the curve a lot. Um, I think it comes down to self-awareness,
Yeah.
as much as possible, and going, I don't think this is risky for these reasons, and outline it like in your head on a notepad, whatever that looks like, for these reasons, and then just branch it off and go, okay, what are some other possible outcomes? Could this go bad for what reasons? And if it's crossing the log, I think you used earlier, it's like, what happens if I fall in the water? Da 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 da. Hypothermia, traumatic injury. Da 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 da. What happens if I do this? And try and break it down a little bit more. That's what I would offer.
Yeah, absolutely. I can definitely see how that will be really useful in those situations. That kind of like leads me to the next question that our
Sure, yeah.
audience has left for you. And it's like, what courses or companies would you suggest for hikers to kind of be more prepared for these situations? And like, what are common mistakes that you see hikers make that lead to search and rescue coming out? So let's kind of start with the first one. It's like courses and companies that you suggest for hikers to kind of learn more about how to protect
Sure.
themselves.
Yeah. I would say, depending on your area, wherever you're from, I would check in with your local outdoor store. So your local outdoor store usually has, or they know, folks or instructors who are in the area that can offer courses, workshops. I would offer a lot of outdoor stores in my experience. If you just call them up, sometimes they'll run like an evening session, like once a week or once a month kind of thing like that, where it's like a free education session in person, come into the store after hours. It's like closed, kind of like a small little group of folks that register ahead of time. And they'll talk about all of these sorts of ideas and topics to be more prepared, maybe talk about some gear, and you can do some Q&A like we're doing right now. I've definitely found that's been super good. Local search and rescue teams. I would do another look for wherever your area is as well. Just get in contact with them. A lot of search and rescue teams will also do similar courses that are free and workshops on the weekends, or they'll definitely know someone on the team or a company that would be closer to your area that would be able to offer those types of services. Those would be my biggest ones. Check your local outdoor store, check your local search and rescue team. I'm sure you will have success. I say sure, but like you'll have success in some regard with them. And then, sorry, Tammy, what was the last portion of that was ideas to be
The
more
second
prepared?
part is what are common mistakes that you see hikers
Mm.
make that lead to search and rescue being called out?
Yeah, I would say the biggest one, number one, is overestimating abilities. So picking a hike or an adventure that doesn't match the person's capabilities. So just get in over their head. That would be probably one of the biggest sort of ones that I've seen in over your head, and now we can't complete the hike or the task or whatever that looks like. That would be a big one. Another one might be utilizing a piece of equipment that's never been used before by that person who's going adventuring. So they're like, they go and they buy whatever piece of new gear, the ice axe, the crampons, and haven't, as you offered, like great follow-up question, never taken a mountaineering course or local guiding companies. That's another good one. Local guiding companies, mountain guide companies in areas can do a lot of those courses, but don't know how to utilize the gear appropriately, and it might cause an injury or something like that, or get into some terrain that they weren't prepared for.
Yeah, absolutely. I can definitely understand why that can sometimes happen, especially with gear that might even have sharp edges and stuff. I'm going to move into another question. We're going to shift gears a bit.
Okay.
But so you've mentioned breath work already.
Mhm.
What other daily practices have you personally used from a neuroscience perspective to condition the mammalian brain, especially subcortical stress responses? So reactions become automatic and controlled under pressure. For example, meditation, visualization, attention and focus, or stress inoculation training. This is a really good question.
Yeah, super good question. Yeah, so you're looking for more of the like subconscious type reactionary actions. So like no time to think, immediate reaction drills, kind of things that we see some more often with military, police, law enforcement type things, where it's just threat presents, immediate action, then figure out what's going on, formulate a plan, and move forward from there. Meditation is a great one. I'm a firm believer in meditation coupled with the breath work. And visualization, I think, is another one. So thinking about and essentially you're talking about a training program. You're identifying hazard and risks that you might encounter, and then you're coming up with a procedure or a protocol for meeting those hazards or those risks, and then you practice that. You take it a step further and then get some more input from subject matter experts and other folks to do that or to put together that checklist, if you will, and then execute on that. So practice, both visualization practice, where it is deep, thoughtful visualization where you can, as best of your ability, feel what you're touching. Like, feel this is what the cord feels like, almost a cross between the meditation piece. Like, this is what the paracord feels like. This is me tying a knot. I'm feeling the cold of the carabiner as I rotate the locking nut down. And then I'm going to tie a knot like this and go like that. If it's more speed you're looking for, then maybe said hazard or thing that you're looking for becomes also more of a reactive, or sorry, not reactive, but a physical type practice as opposed to just mental. I don't think you hang your hat on any one of those. I think you practice all of them to have a holistic, well-rounded response capability to whatever said threat or whatever thing you're training towards.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because that kind of makes me think about like muscle memory and how like you remember certain actions and they just kind of become responses. So yeah, that's a really great answer. I'm now going to move into another audience question that's
Okay,
left for you, Camp.
great.
And that is, would you include a flashlight, survival blanket, and compass in overnight situations?
Oh, 100%. I on my rig here, I don't know if you saw. So those are just like my top four or whatever ones that I like never go home. You know, I say never leave home, but I'm like wearing like this big honking strap up thing. So like the flashlight is right on the front that I can tilt down right there.
Mm.
So I keep that right on there. In my rig off to the side, it's kind of hard to see, but I've got a couple like the space blanket, emergency blankets, and I've got a one little small bivy in here, a bivy sack type thing for shelter. All of those absolutely. There's a called the 10 Essentials that search and rescue, or and I don't know where everyone's calling in from right now, but I'm sure if you just Adventure Smart BC, Adventure Smart BC, get on their website. I'm sure it will be on there, or BC Search and Rescue. The 10 Essentials on there. It's like flashlight, whistle, all those things that you're talking about. And that's like what you got to leave with. I'm a little, my stuff's a little bit different because it's not necessarily for recreating. So I kind of pick and choose what I want and kind of figure that out. But yes, all valid points. Absolutely, all of those.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Um, and we're going to then ask another question that the audience has left for you. It says, Cam, thanks for this presentation, which I agree. Thank you for your presentation. It was so great. Valuable insights. Are you familiar with the book Early 2000s, Deep Survival, Who Lives, Who Dies, and Why by Lawrence Gonzalez? I've used it as a mental framework guide for years for solo backpacking in Den Denali, the Canadian Rockies, Beartooth Wilderness, and in Montana/Wyoming. Your discussion of experience leading to increased risk perspective resonates with that book too.
Tammy, what books are we giving away today?
What?
What books are we giving away today?
The two books that you recommended that I don't remember off the top of
No,
my
that's
head.
okay. I'm totally bugging you. I'm totally bugging you. Yes, absolutely. That is one of the books. That is
Oh,
one of the books. Yeah.
well, you heard it here
Nice.
now. It's not a surprise anymore. Everyone, everyone's thinking the same thing. Just
Totally.
not me off the top
That
of my head.
yeah, that book is great, and that is one of the ones why I recommend it because it's an aggregate of multiple stories of survival throughout there. And each one of those stories you can take a jumping off from. Like you could jump off and do your own research and look at like, oh wow, like some new angles to look at this. And it's more tools in the toolbox. So I think going back to like a couple questions ago, that training one of how do you build those immediate action drills and responses, it's multiple pieces to create that kind of you're shoring up your foundation. That if you can't use one, you can use another one. I think that book offers a really good aggregate of those different situations, and you can jump off from each one of those and spend some time in there. So yes, totally good question. Nice book. I like it. Good thought.
Amazing, amazing. I'm really excited for the winner of our giveaway. They're going to have some great tools on hand. And on to our final question, um, before we hand it back for closing. But Cam, how do I find the line of continually pushing myself to for harder challenges while staying within the bounds of training and preparedness?
Oh yeah, tough one.
Hmm.
I like it though. I like it because how do we grow, right? We push ourselves, we get uncomfortable, and that's the point where we grow.
Yeah.
How do you do it? How do you do it safely? That depends again. And I know I'm not giving a lot of black and white answers. So I think you train and you push yourself within reason. So you keep moving the bar just a little bit more and a little bit more, but not just moving the bar. I think we need to have some thought process as to what that meant. So the last time we pushed ourselves, um, to come back and think on it and be like, okay, what went well? What were my challenges? What am I going to do different next time? If anything, you might not. And then go and track that maybe. How does that time compare to the first time I did it? And you can see a graph and you can organize some risk in there as well. As the risk is increasing, you can start to figure out for yourself, like, where am I moving that line in terms of risk and in terms of challenge? And then you might get to a point where you're like, you know what? I need maybe some professional mountain guide training and take a course. So now you're moving that bar with risk, but you're also then backstopping it with some safety mechanisms, like a professional mountain guide with maybe a different piece of gear for the area I'm going into, do a little bit of research. So it's not just a linear step, it's also these side pieces that are going into that with some good thought as to how much and how far each time am I moving that needle. With still, like, I'm a firm believer in that push yourself and see where you can get to. But we want to come home safe and not get hurt and do that too.
Yeah, that's the most important lesson of the day, coming home safe. And
Yeah,
I really love that piece about setting a criteria for yourself so that it's not just unwarranted and it's just all vibes.
totally,
Um,
totally. Yeah.
So that's all the time that we have for today. Thank you, everybody that submitted a question. If we didn't get to it, no worries. We're going to be sharing the post-event recording in our follow-up email, and we'll also address additional questions there if there are any left over. I am going to pass things back to Lauren, who is going to close us off with a few closing remarks.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us for this episode of ZOLEO Campfire Chats. As always, it's been amazing having you here, and a huge thank you again to Cam for sharing his experience and insights with our community. As we wrap up this season of Campfire Chats, we just want to say thank you for joining us around the fire. We've loved having you along for the journey. We're going to be taking a short break over the summer, but we'll be back this fall with more great guests and stories to share. Until then, stay safe, stay connected, and happy adventuring.